Good to go. Welcome everybody. You're at the special edition of training today. We're actually filming this one. That's because Trevor said you're the best crowd.
Whoa.
So we should film it. So for those who don't know me, and that would be all of you, my name's Andrew. I've been working with Trevor for a number of months now. Come on, Ethan. You here for training? Not here for the fire training?
Fire training, no?
No. Just move across a bit then. Because I know they'll be coming into their line. Alright, I'll see you shortly.
So what are we here for this afternoon? That's the first question. What are we doing? Fire training, exactly. How often do we have to do the fire training? Every calendar year, right? So if you do it in January of this year, technically you don't have to do it until December of next year. Why do you have to do it every calendar year? Who tells us we have to? Who tells us we have to do the training? New South Wales Health. They've got something called a policy directive that everybody that works in an aged care facility, nursing home, hospital, they have to do the fire safety training every year. So it might feel like rinse and repeat, do it every year, do it every year. What we're trying to do is make it automatic in our minds of what we do, so that when an emergency does occur, we don't have to think, So, on that. What's that sound? Fire alarm. So what should we do if the fire alarm goes off here at Gundi Nursing Home? What's the first thing you should all do?
Congratulations.
Sorry? What should you do? So the first thing that you should do is stop what you're doing and wait for instructions, right? So you've probably all done the training before. You know what the fire alarm sounds like, but the first question you weren't even sure what to do. So the first thing is stop what you're doing. Okay? Wait for the instructions, and the instructions will come over the PA system. So you're all general staff. We also have something here in the nursing home called an emergency coordinator. So they're your registered nurses, your managers, your admins. And they play a really important role if there is an emergency in the facility. Now, an emergency could be the fire, it could be something like a missing resident, it could be an external threat. That's why they're called emergency coordinators, not fire wardens, because they will lead from a number of multiple emergencies. If the fire alarm goes off, rather than stopping what they're doing and waiting for instruction, they will need to go to the fire indicator panel, which is up the top. Fire indicator panel looks like this. You've probably walked past it 1,000 times. It's in the main reception. But if the alarm goes off, so this is a smoke alarm here. If we had a fire in this room, that would activate, sends a signal to this panel, and the person at the panel can say, the smoke alarm in Zone 7 training room is going off, and then she can send a message, right? This is on the panel as well, this message here, and it says, attention, attention, this is not a test. I repeat, this is not a test. Can staff in Zone 7 training room please check for fire and or smoke? If no fire or smoke, check for a smoke alarm with a solid red light. That means that the alarm has been activated, and get back to me as soon as possible, right? So we're trying to gather information around what's happening. So say the fire alarm does go off. We've got to treat all fire alarms as real until proven otherwise. And a fire alarm might go off for a number of reasons. They're very sensitive. So they've got vents in the side that things flow into, ideally smoke. It breaks a photoelectric light beam in it. That will send off the smoke alarm. If you get an insect in there, if you get talcum powder, an aerosol, anything like that can have the same effect. It can send it off, right? So the smoke alarm goes off. Got the EC at the fire indicator panel. You're waiting for instruction. The fire brigade's contacted. They turn up here, and they come down to Zone 7 training room. They say there is no fire or smoke. The fire alarm's been activated, but the room is safe. They will reset the whole system. They'll leave the facility, and they will put this down as a false alarm with no cause. That happens. Perfectly fine. The other scenario is someone naughty has brought a toaster down into this lounge room. Maybe it's in the kitchen, cooking some toast for lunch, haven't cleaned it. The toaster catches a light, creates smoke, the smoke alarm comes off. Same thing, fire brigade turn up. They come in, they say, again, it's not dangerous, there is no actual fire or smoke, just the toaster's very, very smoky. Unfortunately, that's called a false alarm with a known cause, and the New South Wales government will give the nursing home a fine, and that fine is nearly $2,000, right? A lot of money. You don't incur that fine. So if you're responsible for burning the toast, you don't pay the $2,000. But if you do it again and again, your employment at the nursing home might be quite short. Because every time the fire brigade comes, $2,000. And we were at a facility earlier this week, they said that they had 3 false smoke alarms go off for this type of reason in 10 days. $6,000 they have to pay to the government because of that. Not a great scenario. Third scenario is the smoke alarm goes off for the reason it was designed to, and that is there's fire or smoke in this room. And that's what the training is about today, is if we do have a genuine emergency, do we know what to do? So we talked about the first thing you want to do, stop and wait for instruction, and the emergency coordinator's up at the fire panel, figuring out what they need to do. But fire emergencies occur all around the world, and for the safety of everybody, they've come up with a protocol on what we should do if we're in a fire emergency situation. And that protocol is called the RACE protocol, 4 letters. And the reason they do it with 4 letters, it makes it very easy to remember because they make it into a word, RACE. So the 4 letters stand for R for remove, A for alert the fire brigade, C for confine the fire and smoke, and E for extinguish. You're a healthcare facility, and so the E is different for you compared to what it would be in most places. Office buildings, shopping centres, they would have evacuate rather than extinguish. Whereas you have E because this is a very, very safe building when it comes to fire. If there's a fire inside, you're better off being inside. If there's a fire outside, you're better off being inside as well. Because this is designed to keep people safe during the actual fire. And you would notice up front, there's a heap of equipment that we brought with us. So when Trevor and I go somewhere like this, we've got this big trolley, we've got a fake fire, we've got fire extinguishers, we've got fire blankets, we've got the white vest, we've got the evacuation bag, we've got smoke alarms. I've got a folder of all the equipment I'm going to show you. This room is amazing. Within 10 metres, there's 3 fire extinguishers. 1 out there, 2 in there. There's a fire hose reel in there. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 sprinklers in here. There's another 2 outside. There's another 2 in there. We've got the emergency lighting. We've got the smoke alarm. You go into that adjacent room, you've got a fire blanket. You've got the signs up here saying you've got fire extinguisher and fire hose reel. You've got the emergency lighting to get outside the door. And you've got a fire door there. All of those things I'm going to talk to you about in more detail off my folder, but they're all here. Okay? It just shows you how important the fire safety is in a facility like this. So, let's go through the letters and what they mean. R means remove. What do you think we're removing? We're removing our clothes if there's a fire?
No.
Why not?
I would love to.
Of course I'd love to take your clothes off. That's a worry. Call HR.
The Quaker's ill man. Westy.
All it means is remove people, right? People matter far more than property or anything else. So we don't worry about our belongings. If you've got a nice computer, telephone, handbag, don't worry about it. Remove people. Pretend this is a residence room. You've walked past him, there's a small fire. You look in and you go, Fred's not in there, you're normally in there, it's safe. I'm going to close the door and get out of here. Which is the right thinking. But first, you've got to just check and make sure that there's no one actually caught in that room who's hiding somewhere, right? So if you've got visitors, children, young children, or elderly residents, they might act in a bit of a strange way when the alarm goes off. They might get scared by it, they might get anxious. So they might hide in that room. So before you back away and close the door, you want to check, is anyone hiding? Where could people hide? In the room.
Cupboard.
In the cupboard?
Under the bed.
Number 1, cupboards under the bed, behind the curtains, behind a door, and if there's an adjoining bathroom, that could be in there. So just remember to look for people, okay? But otherwise, remove them out of the room. The second one is alert the fire brigade. This one's really, really important. It seems simple. That fire indicator panel that I showed you, down here, that's called the fire panel monitoring company. They're watching your panel all the time and saying, is there an alarm going off? So they should see on their end if anything's active here, and they should call the fire brigade. But don't rely on them because things break down. Something electronic may not work, the person the other end's not paying attention, they're on a toilet break, they're playing computer games, who knows? So what we really want to emphasise is if you're here and you're part of the fire response or emergency response group, call the fire brigade. Pick up the phone and call them. Don't rely on this company connected to this little box here. The way that you call a fire brigade is really important. Call it from a landline. What phone number do we use? 000? 000? And if 000, the landline's not working, what do we do? On the mobile phone. And what number do we use on the mobile phone? 112. 112, it's a great number. Same number all around the world. You go on holiday somewhere, you need to call emergency services, mobile phone works, 112. Doesn't matter the country. 000 is for Australia only. I think if you go to New Zealand, it's 999. America's 911, so there's all these variations. But 112 is a great number to remember. And the beautiful thing about calling it on the mobile network, it doesn't care who your phone carrier is. Telstra, Vodafone, Optus, it will swap between them automatically. It doesn't care if you've got credit on your phone, so if you've actually run your phone credit down, you've got $0, you'll still get through. The modern phones, like the iPhones, they're satellite enabled, so that can go up to the satellite. Very, very high chance that when you dial 112, you're going to get to emergency services. Now you go into a call centre when you make that call. Hello, it's Andrew from Emergency Services. What emergency services do you need? Do you need fire, ambulance or police? Smoke alarm's going off, who do we need?
Fire.
So you say, I need the fire brigade. They will then put you through to the New South Wales Fire and Rescue Service. The first thing they're going to ask you is the name of your facility. Now there's two words that I want you to include in the name of your facility that give you superpowers and priority. What are they? Gundi Nursing Home? Exactly. Really important. Nursing home. Don't call it aged care. Aged care could be a hostel, could be independent living. They know with a nursing home, you've got very high care patients. They know that if it's night time, you haven't got much staff. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, they'll send you a minimum of 2 fire trucks. They'll send you police cars and they'll send you an ambulance to help you out. Just by saying nursing home. So embed that in your brain. Really important to say nursing home. Then they need to know your physical street address. Where are we here today? What's the address? Number 13, Jersey Street. What's the nearest cross street? The Boulevard. So the Boulevard down the end of the road. That helps them find this place really quickly. They'll also ask your name, because when they arrive, they want to identify the person who can help them quickly. He says, yep, the fire's in Zone 7 training room, Andrew's stuck down there, can you please go rescue him? So that's the alert. C is confined, and confined is what nursing homes are all about. They're built-in compartments. If we had a fire in here, that door's closed. I can get out here through the fire door, go to safety, close that door behind me. That fire is confined in here. Those normal doors will give you about 10 minutes of protection. That fire door will give you an hour and 20 before the fire gets in it. So that's what it's doing. It's putting it inside a box, and if you can get people outside of the box, we'll talk about that later on. Very, very safe. But just by closing it, you're essentially stopping oxygen getting to it, or limiting oxygen from getting to it, and it will slow down the rate of fire. Extinguish. Now, you've got a lot of firefighting equipment here. The sprinklers will try and extinguish it themselves if they go off. We'll talk about CO2 extinguishers, we'll talk about fire blankets. If you're going to try and control or extinguish a fire, you've got to meet 4 criteria. First is, it's got to be a small fire. And when we mean a small fire, something about this size, not much bigger. If it's 2 or 3 times the size of that, just get out of it. Let the fire brigade take care of it. The second thing is you've got to know how to use the equipment. So we're going to teach you about some of the equipment today. But if you don't know how to use it, don't even try and control the fire. Fire extinguishers are fun, but if you've never used one, you're going to be a little bit confused when you try and use it the first time. Small fire, know how to use the equipment. Have someone with you as a backup. If I fall over while I'm fighting a fire, twist my ankle and I can't get out, I'm now going to become a victim of that fire. I want somebody there with me who can drag me out or get help if I need it. Okay? And then the final one is, you've got to have an exit strategy. That if the fire grows and gets out of control on you, you can get out of the building. So say we've got a fire here in the middle of the room, pretend there's not a door there, that's a solid wall. I would fight the fire from this side only, because I've got the fire door there that I can escape through. However, if the fire's here, and there's no door here, the fire starts expanding, where can I go? I'm going to be burnt toast pretty quick. Not a good scenario. So remember that, race. Okay? RAC, very, very easy. Embedded in your brain from today. But you don't have to do it in this order. Okay? It makes it easy to remember a race. But we could have two people that are walking past, they see the extinguisher, they grab the extinguisher and try and put the fire out. It could be another two people who say, I will go alert the fire brigade. It depends on the situation what you do first, and it's your decision as an individual what you do. Particularly with this extinguished one. If you're not confident, don't try and fight the fire. Leave it for somebody else, leave it for the fire brigade. Okay? That's the first part of Module 1. We're going to get out of here early today, I reckon, because we've got a nice small group, very clever, taking it all in. So remember, race for me, please. Cool. I want to talk to you now about the fire safety equipment that we've got here. But before I do that, I'm going to talk about fire chemistry. Because the fire chemistry is relevant to the equipment that you use. What three things do you need for a fire to occur and fire to progress? Does it need
Heat?
heat? Yep. So something's got to be hot enough to catch fire.
Fuel.
You need fuel, so you've got to have something that burns.
Yeah.
And you need oxygen. So the fire's got to be able to breathe. Spot on, John, well done. You need those three things to start a fire, but you also need those three things to progress a fire. So if you had heat and fuel, but no oxygen, the fire will go out by itself. So it's called the triangle of fire, heat, fuel and oxygen. And if you can control one of those elements in that triangle of fire, then you can control the fire, which is going to lead me to some of the equipment in a minute. A fire also produces byproducts, and the byproducts can be dangerous or they can be deadly. So the first byproduct is heat. You can't see heat, but you can feel heat. If we have a fire in this room, it might start heating up. What are we at now? 22 degrees. Get a fire going, it'll be 40 degrees pretty quickly, 50 degrees pretty quickly after that. It's hot, but it's not unbearable. Keep the doors closed, if the fire keeps burning, you'll be at 70 to 75 degrees pretty quickly in here, which will be uncomfortable. But the hot air will get into your throat, into your airways, and it will cause the muscles inside your airways to constrict because they're trying to protect your lungs. They know that heat's not good for the lungs, so your throat shuts down, you can't breathe, you can potentially suffocate that way. Not a great way to go. Second thing you've got to worry about is obviously the flame. Flames cause burns, first degree burns, third degree burns. You don't want any sort of burn. They hurt a lot, no matter what degree, but they can also be quite deadly. You would have seen news reports of people that have been burnt severely in a fire. They survive, they go into intensive care, they keep them alive for 2 or 3 weeks, they get an infection through the burnt skin, they die. So the burn itself can be deadly. But if it's not deadly, it's sure as hell going to be painful, and it could be painful for the entirety of your life. You'll have scarring. But the most deadly byproduct of fire is smoke. And you girls know the answer to this, don't you? Do you remember? What's the proportion of your lungs that if it fills with smoke, you're going to die?
1.7.
So it's 1.7% of your lungs, you're going to die. My lungs are about 5.5, 6 litres.
A lot of people die before fighting together.
Exactly. So my lungs are 5.5 to 6 litres. If I take 2 small sips of air, that's going to be about 2% filled with smoke. I will die. I will die. So smoke is by far the most dangerous. Now when we said fires, maybe going back 40 years ago, we had a lot of natural products. So we had mainly wooden furniture. We had a lot of paper, we had a lot of cardboard. It gives a white smoke. Not as bad as current fires that occur with synthetic materials. So that lounge, vinyl, foam, the chairs are plastic, the TV on the wall would be plastic. When those things catch fire, they burn very hot, they burn very quickly, but worst of all, they put off a toxic black smoke. So there's a lot more poisonous elements in the smoke that can kill you as well. So if you are in a room that fills with smoke, the way it will happen is the fire's in the middle of the room, the smoke rises up in a stream, it hits the ceiling, it spreads sideways, and once the ceiling's full of smoke, it starts descending into that called a smoke wave. It's like the tide coming in on the beach, right? And if you're stuck in that room, you want to go for fresh air. Where does fresh air occur in that room? Where would you go to escape the smoke?
Down. Get down. Go.
Down on your stomach. Right? That's going to be the last place that the smoke gets to, so it's the safest place for you to be. We teach our children in school something called get down low and go, go, go. Okay? And the idea is you get on the floor and you look for the exit, and no matter how you get to the exit, whether you waddle like a duck, slither like a snake, whatever you need to do, that's the safest thing to do, right? Because that 1.7% is going to kill you. It is incredibly dangerous, smoke. Incredibly dangerous. So, let's talk about some fire equipment. Now, we're very clever, Trevor and I. What have we got here?
Fire.
Is it really a fire, or is it a heater that looks like a fire? Okay, we'll pretend for today's session it is actually a fire. So I mentioned when I started the session with you that within a radius of 10 metres, so directly outside that door in the general storeroom, and then in this little alcove here, there's 3 fire extinguishers. This one, this type, there's different types of fire extinguishers, is the most common one that you'll see in this facility and other healthcare facilities. Does anyone know what it's called? What type of extinguisher? CO2. CO2, carbon dioxide. The reason it's called carbon dioxide is it's filled with liquid carbon dioxide, which is extremely versatile for putting out fires. You'll often see ones with white bands in other locations. They're called dry chemical ones. They're also very good, but they give off a lot of nasty chemicals. They're not going to kill you, but if you're an elderly person who's maybe got reduced immunisation or breathing issues, they're not great. So healthcare facilities have these carbon dioxide ones. Do we know how we know it's a carbon dioxide cylinder? There's some special things about it that tell us it's carbon dioxide. Yep, see the big black nozzle? No other extinguisher has this type of nozzle on it, right? So if you see that, you know it's carbon dioxide. What about this black band? That black band is on this one as well. So the colour of the band around this tells us the type of extinguisher that it is, and the black one specifically tells us it's a carbon dioxide extinguisher. Then the third thing is, if you're close enough to it, it will say CO2 on it. So you've got 3 ways to identify it. The big black nozzle, the black band, we can go up and read it. They come in different sizes. This one I've got in my hand, there you go, is about 2 kilos. This one over here is 3.5, sometimes you'll see them slightly bigger. They're all pretty simple to use. All extinguishers work the same way. So we use the 4-letter acronym to remember what we should do in the case of a fire. Remember, what is it? What's the 4-letter acronym we've been talking about before?
Race.
RACE. So we've got another acronym for how to use a fire extinguisher. And it's PASS. P-A-S-S. Anyone know what P stands for?
Pull.
Pull? What am I pulling? My arm?
The trigger. Yeah, the pin.
Pulling the pin. Trevor likes to trick me. So this one's got a pin in it. See the top of this leather handle? I can't squeeze it because it's got a metal pin through it, right? So the way that you pull the pin is you have to twist this circular piece. And this may not work easily because I've got this in the way. That shouldn't be there. And that breaks that plastic on there. It wouldn't normally be that difficult. Not break yeah, we're already dead, aren't we?
Yeah, that's what.
But that's really important, right? Because that piece of metal there is for hanging it on the wall. That pin, when it goes in, should come from the other side, not this side. Now, the small ones are a bit funny in the way that it's designed, so we don't worry about it. So we've got P for pull. A stands for what? Aim. Where do I aim it? Do I aim it at you? What happens if I aim it at you?
You all over your face?
You're going to get liquid CO2 in the face. Would that be a good feeling?
No.
No, it's quite cold, so it could cause you a burn. So you do have to make sure you're pointing at the fire, not people. Okay, so we've done pull, aim. What's next? S is for Squeeze. Yeah. So I'm going to squeeze the trigger handle, and then the final S is for sweep. So sweep means go side to side. If you attack a fire and just point this thing straight at it, you're basically putting a lot of wind straight onto it. So it could blow it onto somewhere else and catches fire. That sweep step is quite important. I'm going to activate it. Everybody okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
It's a bit loud.
Yeah.
So I take an aggressive stance to it, one leg forward, squeeze. Imagine when the fire's going out. Anybody want to have a go? They're fun. So don't worry about pulling the pin, right? Just do the aim, squeeze and sweep, right? I'll put the fire back on. So you determine how far you want to be from the fire. One leg forward, twice the turn of the hips. When you're ready, you can have a go at putting it out.
1, 2, 3.
Point in the base. Down low, yep. Do it again. That's okay. Squeeze again. Good fun, isn't it? Anyone else? We can use it up. We've got to use it today, so it's okay.
That's right.
Well, John.
Have a go.
John, and
Sean, only if you want to. Don't feel peer pressure.
Not peer pressure.
So walk in. Determine what shape distance is. Squeeze the handle.
Whoa.
Perfect. There's still some liquid in there if anyone else wants to have a go. Go on, you were there. Come on. You can go home tonight and talk to your family and say, hey, I put a fire out today. So your right hand. So left hand just on the plastic nozzle. Just back a little bit, yeah. And then when you're... Perfect.
Perfect.
Round of applause.
Yeah.
So these big ones, 3.5 kilos. Can you stand up for it? Sit up. Just lift that up off the ground. You can lift that okay? Feels heavy? Yeah. It will feel heavy, but if you've got an emergency situation, adrenaline is released in your body.
Of course, you can use it.
Yeah, gives you more oxygen, gives you more glycogen. You can do things that would otherwise feel a bit tough, and you'll find that you've got enough strength to carry that around. So that will last 20 seconds against a fire. Doesn't sound like a long time, but 20 seconds is more than enough time to put out a small fire with one of those if you use it properly. Now, if you are fighting a fire and you can't put the fire out, that it's resistant to the extinguisher, that's okay. Do your best and then leave it. Don't come back with another extinguisher and try and put the fire out with a different extinguisher. And also, when you're leaving the room, if you can remember, take the extinguisher with you and lay it down outside the door and close the door behind you. That's a really important signal to the fire brigade where the fire is. So they'll turn up, they'll liaise with the emergency coordinator and they'll say, there's a fire in Zone 7 training room. Now the fire brigade won't know where training room is, training room 7 is, right? You might need to say it's in the basement, in the western corner, downstairs. And they go, okay. They come down the stairs, they find a fire extinguisher outside the door. It's okay.
It's a fire.
Our fire brigade here.
guys, have a fine time.
You too.
Bye.
So that laying outside the door is a really good signal for them to locate where the fire is. Now those extinguishers work very well on most fires. And every fire that you're going to experience inside the facility here, you can use that on, with the exception of one type of fire we never ever want you to try and fight, that is. That's a dangerous fire, and it's also the most common fire that occurs in people's homes. Does anyone know what sort of fire that is?
Mobile phones or
Sorry?
with mobile phones plugged in?
They're pretty bad ones, they are becoming more common, but more common than that. It's a dangerous fire, but it's not deadly, and the reason is people are usually awake with this type of fire. Where could it occur?
The kitchen gas.
Kitchen, yeah. So rather than gas, it's what we call a cooking oil or a fat fire. The reason they are so dangerous is once the oil or the fat heats up, it's prone to something called expansion, that it can roll out very, very quickly. Yeah. So you don't want to put anything on it. cause it to roll out. So if you hit it with something that's got a lot of gas coming out of it at high velocity, it could blow it elsewhere. So the way that you treat a cooking oil fire is, again, you're trying to take the oxygen away, which is what we did with the CO2 one. How would you do it? So what tool have we got? Good. Exactly.
Yep.
So this little piece of equipment here, you've all seen it. Fire blanket, there's one in the kitchen there.
Yeah.
If you go to the main kitchen, they'll have a much bigger one. They'll probably have two of them hanging on the
Yes,
wall.
we have one.
Yeah, hang on the wall.
Yeah.
You can get these for home from your supermarkets or Bunnings. They're $10. It's super easy to use. If you've got it at home, you don't need to hang on the wall. Just have it in a cupboard or a drawer nearby. But the way you use it, just pull these black tabs. The blanket comes out of the red envelope. Spread it out nice and wide. You walk up to the fire and you lay the blanket over the pan and you leave it there. The fire can't get oxygen because the blanket's sitting over the top of it and it will go out quite quickly. You can't use the blanket again if you've done that with it once, right? Single use. And for $10, it's a great investment having in your home. If you haven't already got one, we strongly recommend that you have these in your home. And super easy to use. Now, if you do have a fire at your home, please don't have any concerns about calling the fire brigade and asking for their assistance. We pay a lot of tax, we pay a lot of levies that supports the fire brigade. That's how the system works. They will be there in under 9 minutes to your house. They'll be here in under 9 minutes to this facility if you call them. Because there's 124 fire stations around the Sydney metropolitan basin. So here in Strathfield, your nearest one would be Burwood, Homebush or Ashfield. Any one of those could get a fire or an accident elsewhere. There'll be another one that comes from Bankstown, from Canterbury, somewhere like that. They'll be here in 9 minutes. The same with your home. They'll come to your home and they'll say, fantastic job, John. We're really pleased that you had a fire blanket. We're really pleased that you knew how to use it. It looks like you've put the fire out. But kitchens have exhaust fans. Sparks and flames can go up in that. If they get in the roof space, you're going to lose your house. So let's send a fireman up into the roof to make sure that that's safe up there and not on fire. Because there's a lot of stuff up there. It could be dust, could be sports equipment you've got stored up there,
Bats.
old newspapers, bats, insulation bats, exactly. Really easy to catch fire. So if you have a fire at home, call the fire brigade. If you haven't got one of these at home, get one. Next, in this facility, anybody know what these are?
Water sprinklers.
Water sprinklers. Does anyone know how they work?
Heat.
Yeah, heat. So we've got water charged all through these pipes. It's full of water right now. And then these sprinkler heads, they've got a little red tube at the end of it. And what will happen is, if there's a fire in this room, say it was this fire here, sitting directly under that sprinkler head, pushing heat up, the minute that tube heats to 68.5 degrees, the tube explodes. So not all sprinkler heads go off at once. If it was just a small fire here, it would only be that sprinkler head that goes off. If it's a big fire in the middle of the room and it's pushing it out everywhere, then you might find multiple sprinkler heads going off at once. And the sprinklers do a fantastic job of putting the fire out. So if you think about the fire triangle, the fire blanket and the CO2 extinguisher are taking away oxygen. Water, if it comes out of the sprinklers, is taking away heat. Same sort of thing that if you put the garden hose on a fire at home, it takes away the heat. They'll do a really good job of putting the fire out. Do you think they turn themselves off automatically once the fire's out? What happens?
Keep going.
Keep going.
Yeah,
To the fire.
exactly.
To the fire.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's going to be a question in your quiz after this where it talks about the number of zones that you have here. And the zones are the fire compartments that are created by the doors. So you've got 11 zones here. There's also one called the sprinkler zone, which is zone 1. So whoever goes to the fire indicator panel, they need to look at what zones are affected. Zone 7 training room, okay, that's where the fire is. Zone 1 sprinkler zone, also activated. We need to let the fire brigade know because they'll send another truck. They'll send what's called a salvage truck. It's got pumps to take the water out, it's got mops, it's got buckets, all that sort of thing. So how does the sprinkler get turned off if we do have a fire if it's activated? And just know that these are quite sensitive, right? So these are low. If I hit that hard enough with my hand, I could probably activate it to them, which you don't want to do. How do they get turned off?
Like the fireman comes in, they turn off.
Yep,
The fire
that's right.
turns off.
So no one can turn off the sprinklers other than the fire brigade. But you, as the staff, need to be able to help the fire brigade do that
Okay.
by knowing the location of the what's called the sprinkler shut-off valve. Does anyone know where it is?
From the front of the building.
It's out in front of the building. Can you be more specific where it is? You would have seen it a million times walking in.
In the garden area.
It's in the garden area. So as you come in that pedestrian ramp towards the front door, out on the street you've got what's called the booster valves, which the fire trucks are connected. But as you come in that pedestrian ramp, just on your left-hand side, there's another series of little tap-like things in a red box. That's your sprinkler shut-off valve. That's where the fire brigade needs to go to turn that sprinkler off if it's activated. So the water can do a lot more damage to the building and the property than the fire necessarily will or can do, because if you're in a multi-storey building, you get the sprinkler going off on top, floods that floor. Once it's flooded that floor, gravity takes it to the next floor, it floods that floor, floods the next floor. Great for stopping the fire, just remember the potential for damage. Other things that we've got that will help us in a fire. Now John, you're in a room that's on fire and you can't get out. You've got $1,000 in your wallet. I'm on the other side of that door and I can rescue you. How much money would you pay me to rescue you if your life's in danger?
All of it.
$1,000. What if it was $1 million? Anyone else? Would you argue? If you had $1 million, would you give me 10,000, 50,000, 100,000? Would you give me $1 million?
It's your life.
It's your life, right? Okay.
Someone is there?
No, it's just the wind blowing on the doors.
One of the things I did the building.
So it's an interesting question that I ask from the psychology of humans, because these are your primary defence in staying alive, these smoke alarms. Now, in the nursing home, they'll be in every room. So they're in the corridors, they're in the training room, they're in the residents' rooms. And the idea is that they are the best chance of discovering quickly that you have a life-threatening situation and a fire that could take people's lives. You'll have smoke alarms in your house. Those smoke alarms will typically be in your hallways. That's been legislated for 20 or 30 years. And they look like this, they're hardwired in. We've had, unfortunately in Sydney alone, this winter, I think 12 deaths from people dying from fires in their homes. 2 weeks ago, 3 people were killed up in Queensland. It's actually turned out to be murder rather than just accidental. And then I think the week before that, someone else died in northern New South Wales as well. When people die in fires, do you think they're dying from burns, from the heat, or from the smoke? It's from the smoke, 1.7%. 2 breaths and I'm dead.
Sleep, yeah.
Exactly. Sleep is the issue. So these fires are occurring in people's homes at night time. Typically the fires that are deadly are between 12 a.m. and 5 a.m. when we're most deeply asleep. Because we're sound asleep, we don't know what's going on. I've got a laptop charging on the bedside table with a lithium battery in it. I've got my mobile phone on the windowsill with a lithium battery in it. Might be a TV on the wall. One of those catches fire. Sorry?
What about candles?
Exactly.
Scented candles.
I'll tell you a story about one of Trevor's incidents when he was actually in the fire brigade in a minute. But the point is, if your bedroom catches a light for whatever reason, and you've got the door closed, there's a very high chance you're going to die in there. The item will catch a light, the smoke will rise, it will go across the roof and it will start descending. I'm lying in bed sleeping, a couple of breaths, I can't even smell it because of the stage of sleep that I'm in. Completely unaware. And within 2 breaths, that smoke has entered my lungs and I'm dead. Why didn't the smoke alarm go off out in the hallway?
Batteries. Flat.
Why didn't it go off?
Because there's no one in your room, like, it's out in
Yeah.
the hallway.
The smoke alarm was in the hallway, there's no
Yeah.
smoke out there.
Okay.
So most of the deaths that are occurring in people's beds, they're not finding them trying to crawl out. They're finding them, they died essentially in their sleep. So those smoke alarms, they I think got a 10-year lifespan on them, but they need to be hardwired into the roof, right? So you screw them in, get an electrician, they have a backup battery.
But now is it mandatory that you got to have a fire alarm in every room?
the law is changing apparently. So if you have a investment property that you put tenants into, I think technically you're meant to have a smoke alarm in every room as part of your insurance policy. And these new smoke alarms, super loud, super annoying. That's got a 10-year battery in it. You don't need to hardwire it in. This one comes with a magnetic plate, put it on the roof, right? So double-sided tape. You want to go to the bathroom? Of course you can go to the bathroom. Did that noise make you want to go to the bathroom? So double-sided tape, you peel it off, stick it to the roof. Magnetic, and you can take it off at any time. $50 to $70 from the hardware store. Trevor sells these, so if you want some, have a word with him. But again, back to that example where I said you've got $1,000 in your wallet, you'd give it to me in an instant when it's happening, wouldn't you? $50. So say you've got 4 bedroom, there's $200. And a fire link, $210 all up for your safety. If those 15 people that died had smoke alarms, what would the cost be? $750 maybe in total? Would we pay $750 to save 15 lives?
Yeah, of course.
Of course we would, right? So it just shows you the absurdity of not having these things. I didn't have them in my bedrooms before I did this job, but once I learned about it, boy, I got them pretty quick. Other thing that's really great about the nursing homes is smoke and fire doors. So 2 types of doors, they're different weights, different constructions essentially. This is a normal door, I think this one, or a hollow core door. Even that closed will keep you safe if you're on the other side of the fire for about 10 minutes before it burns through. A smoke door, you'll see them all around the facility. They're the ones that have 2 doors open that are held against the wall with an electromagnet. When the smoke alarm goes off, it goes back to the fire panel. The fire panel sends a signal to all their electromagnets. That releases the doors and it closes them. That's what makes your fire compartments the areas that are safe. So the smoke door is 30 minutes minimum protection. They'll be held in the open position. A fire door is a heavy duty door, 120 minutes minimum protection. That'll be around your stairwells. So if you're in a fire, you want to get to the safest place, get in your stairwell. We've got a fire door just here, leads us outside. They'll typically be closed. All fire doors will be closed, but in most cases they'll be unlocked. So if you're up on level 2, you can get out through a fire door, go down the stairs, but you can't go back in through that fire door. You can only come to the ground fire door and go out. If you're in a room, or actually you're on the other side of a compartment where you think there might be a fire on the other side, there's 2 small tests you want to do before you go into that room that will save your life and potentially the life of other people. If there's a fire on the other side of the door, you don't want to go in there, unless it's a small fire. So you go up to the door handle, touch it with the back of the hand, is it hot or not? If it's hot, don't go in. Worse is if you see smoke coming into that door. Why is that worse? If it's coming into the door, what's happening on the other side of that door?
Fire is
But the whole room is full of smoke. If it's down here, it's hit the roof, descended, whoever's in there is dead. There's no doubt about it. There's no point risking your life. And if it's hot and you open that door, oxygen.
Oxygen comes.
What's going to happen to the fire if oxygen goes in? Explosion. It's called a backdraft. So important to know that the fire doors are going to save your life and the smoke doors, but also know that there's a technique that you need to follow if you're going to go through those doors and check for anybody. We've got emergency lights here. Now, I've got a couple of pictures here. This is an older style light, emergency light. I've never actually seen one before until I came here today. There's one in the kitchen. Yeah. Everybody come have a look.
What is in the kitchen?
There isn't?
No.
That's it.
So the other type of emergency light is this more rounded one. It's called a Spitfire light.
That's it.
The picture here doesn't look so much like this one.
No.
You'll see these ones up on the floor because they can embed them into the plaster, whereas I think because this is solid, we've put it in retrospectively, they've got to put it in this way. But it's hardwired, so you can see the electricity supply coming through it. It also has a battery behind it, so if the electricity is cut, it will continue to run. If it goes dark, it'll throw out a very small amount of light. It's not like lighting up the room like this one is. Just enough light for you to be able to see, potentially see where the exit is. So don't expect too much light from those ones. If you do need supplementary light, you can use the torch on your phone. So remember you've got that as a backup. If you're anywhere near this evacuation bag, and we film these, so we created these for our clients, there's a torch in them often. Water, more importantly, for what we're talking about, has Trevor showed you the disco light before? You remember this one?
Correct.
So this is a headlamp.